Hello guys. Hello everyone. So welcome to our channel. Today we are going to conduct one of the best live sessions that you can ever get on Instagram. So I am the fan of the person whom we are going to meet, and shortly with us. I hope you all know about Anil Swarup sir. Uh, Hi sir. Welcome to our Instagram live. It's pleasure.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You are very much audible.
Okay.
Welcome, sir. Today we are going to conduct this session. Our topic specifically is case studies and ethical dilemma. But later I realized that I have given an injustice to the book that you have written. It's not just about ethical dilemma and case studies. It's actually about the broader aspect of all the aspects of the life. How a civil servant should live a life, what a aspirant can, the challenges he can face in the service, what he should be or she should be prepared for. So we will be dealing all those aspects in this interview. So sir, first of all, आप सर एक अपना जर्नी बताइए हम लोगों को, कैसा रहा इलाहाबाद से निकलकर इलाहाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़कर। आपके समय में तो इलाहाबाद गढ़ हुआ करता था यूपीएससी का। वो एक तरीके से जैसे आज हम कोटा फैक्ट्री जानते हैं, इलाहाबाद शायद उस समय में यूपीएससी फैक्ट्री, शायद मैं कहूँ तो कोई बड़ी बात नहीं होगी। और साथ
Thank
ही
you. Okay.
yes,
Thank you very much for inviting me here. Let me commence my journey from my time that I spent in Allahabad. Am I audible?
yes, yes,
Is
sir,
my
very
voice
much.
reaching? Okay.
No, it's fine.
So when I joined Allahabad University, the primary objective of joining the university was to get into the IAS, because my father wanted me to become an IAS officer. And in those days, as you say, Allahabad University was the factory that produced IAS officers. But unlike Kota, there were no coaching institutes. The culture of Allahabad University was such, the ethos was such, that you felt inspired into studying and getting into the civil service. So that was the reason why I switched from Lucknow, where I did my schooling, to Allahabad University to study for the IAS. As luck would have it, I switched from science to arts. That is, from physics, chemistry, maths to humanities subject. My language, both English and Hindi, spoken and written, was terrible. In those days, we used to have ragging in the hospital or in our hostels where we stayed. Now, of course, thankfully, it is not there. But during the ragging, one of my seniors asked me to write an essay in English. And I wrote such a terrible essay, a few lines, that I discovered that my language was very, very bad. That provided me an opportunity to assess where I was going wrong. And during my stay there over a period of time, I followed a particular drill to improve my both English and Hindi communication skills. I went on to become a reasonably good debater. And this happened during my stay in Allahabad, where I made a very conscious effort. And that's why when I talk to students, I tell them, don't worry about the problems that you have with language. Not everyone is born with that language. Many of us learn during the course of our lives. And if you so desire, you can actually evolve as a very effective communicator. But you have to follow a particular drill. You have to sacrifice a bit. And then you can improve your both written and spoken language. Ultimately in life, communication is a very, very important factor in your success or failure. And hence it's important for you to evolve as a communicator. I remember distinctly, as I was learning how to speak and debate in English, I used to participate in local debates. And I remember in one of the debates, I forgot what I had to speak. So after about after having spoken for 15 seconds, I stood there for 10 more seconds speaking nothing. And then I walked out. It was very embarrassing for me. A greater embarrassment came to me about a year down the line when I had become a reasonably good debater. But I also thought that I could sing well. So we had gone to the National Cultural Festival at IIT Kanpur, and I was a regular representative of the Amarnath hostel in the debating team. But I thought since I sung well, I should participate in the music competition also. So I participated in the music competition, which was a day before the debating competition. And as I started singing, I picked up the wrong note. Within 15 seconds, I was booed out by 1,000 strong students, just booed out. So I came out, and next day was my debating competition. I was extremely depressed. I didn't want to participate in the debating competition because I was very badly hit. One of my seniors gave me a pep talk and told me, what has happened has happened. In any case, that was not your forte. And if you're going to stuck with your past, the mistakes that you committed in the past, you will never be able to travel into the future. So try and forget what happened yesterday, because your forte it's tomorrow. That's your strength. If you can focus on what you got to do rather than what you couldn't do in the past, you would succeed. It helped me. Next day, I participated in the debate. As soon as my name was announced, the students started shouting Gayak aa gaya, because they thought that the same singer has come and will again fall today. By which time I had overcome my problems and I spoke. I spoke on a very interesting topic and won the first national debate prize. And thereafter, I have not looked back. See, the point that I'm trying to make, I'm assuming that most of those that are listening to me are youngsters. My point to you is, all of us fail in life at some point in time. All of us make mistakes. Successful are those that understand, appreciate, and learn from those mistakes. Don't live in the past. If you live in the past, you will never come out of those mistakes. You'll never be able to improve upon that mistakes, and probably successful, that might be a problem. So that was my brief exposure to what I did in Allahabad. But there are many more things that I can tell though.
Thank you, sir. So actually, this was the question that I was going to ask you in the end about the failures, because nowadays we are conducting so many sessions to the people who have qualified mains, but a larger proportion has actually failed the mains, and there is nobody to guide them, to support them for the next year's journey. So I always wanted you to talk to those students who feel a bit demotivated at this level. And I think you have rightly said, the story itself is a big motivation to them. एक बार गाना नहीं गा पाए, कोई बात नहीं, वो अलग कंपटीशन था, अगली बार अलग कंपटीशन है, यहाँ कुछ अलग करेंगे. पर हमारे पास जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं सब वो बाइलिंगुअल है, तो हिंदी का
मेरा एक सुझाव है. जो विद्यार्थी इस वर्ष मेन की परीक्षा में सफल नहीं हो पाए, उनसे मेरा अनुरोध है कि ये याद रखें कि प्रथम वर्ष में मैं भी आईएएस में नहीं क्वालिफाई किया था. प्रथम वर्ष में मैं पुलिस सेवा में आया था. अब सफलता असफलता व्यक्तिगत होती है. किसी को वो सफलता दिखती है, दूसरे को वो असफलता दिखती है. ये आपके मानने वाली बात है. मैं पहले वर्ष जब पुलिस में क्वालिफाई किया तो मेरे पिता और मेरे लिए दोनों के लिए असफल था वो. कई लोग सोचते होंगे पुलिस में आगे बड़े सफलता अपना महसूस करते हो. आपके ऊपर निर्भर करता है. दूसरा, कोई भी आप कार्य कर रहे हैं, उसका अंततः क्या होगा वो आप पे है ही नहीं नियंत्रित. आपका सिर्फ नियंत्रण अपने आप पर है, अपने प्रयास पर है, इस पल पर है. अंततः उसका निर्णय क्या होगा, उसका निष्कर्ष क्या निकलेगा. हम इस देश में कहते हैं कि कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, लेकिन शायद मानते नहीं इस बात को. आप इस पर विचार कीजिए कि वास्तविकता यह है जीवन की कि हमें फल पर कोई नियंत्रण है ही नहीं. ये गीता का संदेश ही नहीं है, ये जीवन की वास्तविकता है. अगर आपको फल अच्छा मिलना है तो प्रयास तो करना ही पड़ेगा. अब उसके बावजूद भी हो सकता है आपको फल वो ना मिले जिसको आप प्रयासरत हैं जिसके लिए. लेकिन एक बात याद रखिए, अगर आप सिविल सेवा के लिए सही प्रकार से प्रयासरत हैं तो हो सकता है सिविल सेवा में सफल ना हो, लेकिन जीवन में सफल होने का आपने एक बार रास्ता तय कर लिया. क्योंकि जब आप सिविल सेवा की तैयारी करते हैं तो बहुत मेहनत करते हैं, तो एक तो मेहनत की आदत पड़ जाती है. दूसरा, आप जो प्रयास करते हैं, जो सीखते हैं, वो खाली सिविल सेवा के लिए उपयोगी नहीं है, वो जीवन के अन्य कार्यों में जो आप करेंगे उसमें भी उपयोग होगा. जैसे मैं बार बार बच्चों को बताता हूं कि अपनी संवाद यानी कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स को सुधारो. मैंने देखा है कि क्योंकि 38 साल मैंने सेवा किया है, कई प्रकार के अधिकारियों को मेरा सामना पड़ा, लेकिन जो अच्छे कम्युनिकेटर्स नहीं थे, जिनकी संवाद में जो अच्छे नहीं थे, उनको सेवा में बहुत समस्या आई। मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा 40 से 50% आईएएस अफसर जो हैं वो डिससेटिस्फाइड रहते हैं अपनी सर्विस। तो बहुत बड़ा प्रतिशत है। तो खाली सेवा में आ जाना सफलता का प्रतीक नहीं है, और खाली सेवा में ना आना भी असफलता का प्रतीक नहीं है। आपको निरंतर प्रयासरत रहना है। सफल हो गए तो बहुत अच्छा, नहीं सफल हुए तो आपने जो कुछ सीखा है वो सीख आपके लिए आगे जीवन में आपको लाभकारी सिद्ध होगी।
Very nice, sir. Very truly said. Uh, Sir, now I think we should move to ethical dilemmas part. Your second book, which specifically deal with ethical dilemmas of civil servants. And it's been said about the book that every civil servant should read it at least in the starting of its journey and after every 5 years. I would, अगर मुझसे पूछा जाता, so I would have said that every aspirant should read this book at the start of his journey. जब आप यूपीएससी की सोचते हैं तो आपको पहले एथिकल डिलेमास फॉर सिविल सर्वेंट पढ़ लेना चाहिए, so that you will be prepared that what you are going to face in the service. So it's not easy to be Anil Swarup, and when you become Anil Swarup, the life will not become easier. It will even get tougher. तो उसके लिए आप तैयार हो जाएं, और जब भी आप डिमोटिवेटेड फील करें इस जर्नी में, तब आप फिर से इस किताब को दोबारा आकर पढ़ सकते हैं। तो सर, एक बार अगर आप हमें थोड़ा बताएं कि क्या एथिकल डिलेमास हैं और इसको कैसे आप एज ए सिविल सर्वेंट डील करते हैं, एस्पिरेंट्स इसको किस तरीके से समझ सकते हैं, फिर हम एग्जाम के पर्सपेक्टिव से डिस्कस करेंगे कैसे लिखा जाए आंसर।
First of all, I'd like to explain why I wrote this book, because many people have asked me why ethical dilemmas. Because before that, I had written a book, not just a civil servant. Purely technically speaking, the second book is in the same genre as the first one, but there was a specific reason why I wrote ethical dilemmas of a civil servant. I used to visit the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy quite regularly, interacting with a number of officers of various seniorities. Officers who just joined the civil service when they were probationers, I used to address them. Then I used to address them in phase 1, which was after about a year and a half. Then I used to address in phase 2, which was after about 2 years. Then in phase 3 after 10 years, phase 4 after 20 years, and phase 5 after 25 years. So I interacted with officers of all seniorities. And I discovered that when an officer joins the civil service, he's very excited, he's very energetic, he's very hopeful, he wants to do things. But as he goes up the ladder, he starts losing this enthusiasm. And when he puts in about 25 years of service, a large number of civil servants become cynical. And when I interacted with them, they told me they are unable to do things which they want to do because of the circumstances, because of politicians, because of so many things. It is to address that particular issue that I read this book. Because the essence of ethical dilemmas is that you have absolutely no control over circumstances. If you are unable to do things, the problem is with you, not set of circumstances. And I give examples of a large number of civil servants who have actually performed despite these problems. So our inspiration has to come from such officers who were able to perform despite these difficult set of circumstances. The question is, there are all sorts of officers in civil service, good, bad, and ugly. Who am I looking at? Who am I seeking inspiration from? If you want to look at dishonest and successful officers, you'll find them. But if you want to look at honest, successful officers, you'll find them. If you want to look at dishonest, inefficient officers, you'll find them. If you want to look at dishonest, efficient officers, you'll find them. So you can find all types of officers in the service. The choice is yours. You decide. So that was the rationale for writing the book. I wanted to demonstrate to all, those in the civil service and those outside, to notice that success or failure is not dependent on your set of circumstances. Success or failure is dependent on you. And that is why my book concludes by the following couplet. खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से कुछ पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. And this is based on a false assumption that all problems are because of somebody else. उम्र भर यही भूल करता रहा गालिब, धूल चेहरे पे थी आईना मलता रहा. So this is the fundamental problem. Now in the book, I have talked about ethical dilemmas. Now let me briefly explain what do I mean by ethical dilemmas. To me, ethical values of an individual depend on that individual himself. My value system may be different from my brother's value system. Value system of my family may differ to the value system of others. Value system of a society may differ value system of others. And value system of a country may be different from. But there could be common values which are agreed upon nations, families. The most interesting bit of a value system is that it can change over a period of time. So I can start as a non-vegetarian in my life, where I justify eating non-vegetarian food, but over a period of time become a vegetarian. Many people do become vegetarians. It could be vice versa. You can start a vegetarian, become a non-vegetarian. So what is actually happening? That on the basis of the feedback that you get, on the basis of your own requirement, you start changing your value system. Nothing wrong. In my entire book, I have not said that what I am saying is correct. The book talks about what I did. The book talks about what I found correct at that point in time. In fact, if you read the book, at the end of a number of chapters, I've questioned my own action. So I'm not saying what I did was always right, but at that point in time, it was right. And this brings me to the next point. A dilemma is a choice, and ethics is the choice of what is right and what is wrong. So my understanding of what is right and what is wrong, as I said, can change over a period of time, can change from location to location, can change from place to place, but may not change also. It could be the same as well. So to me, value system is not a static word, but the ethos, that is the ethical system of an organization, is much more static than my personal. Even organizational ethics do change. It's not they don't. So for example, a society like India may not have protested against widow, or may not have, or would have protested against widow remarriage at some point in time. But later on, the society has come to accept that as a fact, by and large, that widow remarriage is fine. Meaning thereby that the value system also undergone a change. But it takes much longer for societal ethos to change as compared to an individual ethos. It changes quickly. So that's the subtle difference between my value system and the ethos. There could be a conflict between my value and the ethical and the ethos of the area. So I'm not used to, I don't believe we should get up early in the morning, but I joined the army. No, my value system says it doesn't matter whether I get up early in the morning, but the ethos of the army says you jolly well get up early in the morning and go for a run. So there is that conflict. Similarly, when you get into the civil service, you may have a leftist bent of mind before joining the service. And you want to throw this out, revolt at this. But once you join the civil service, you get into a discipline. So your value system comes into, so to say, conflict with the bureaucratic ethos. So you have to change. I mean, I can go on to explain that. So this book, what it says is, so long as there's no disconnect between what you think is right and what you are actually doing, you lead a peaceful life. And by and large, you're likely to be successful. Now, I face these dilemmas right through my career. My first problem that I had, and which I resolved over a period of time, was my unnecessary value or my impression about politicians. When I joined the service, I thought, like most of us think, that all the mess in this country is on account of politicians. Ironically, we have adopted a democracy, yet we blame politicians for everything. I also did that. And I soon realized how wrong I was. Politicians are also good, bad, and ugly, as are civil servants, as is the society. There are all sorts of politicians who do that. If you read my book, I have mentioned details about politicians who are absolutely outstanding, like Mr. Kalyan Singh. I spent a lot of time with him. There are a few chapters on Kalyan Singh there. Then I enjoyed working with Mr. Kharge, Mallikarjun Kharge, different political parties. But they were wonderful people, nice human beings. Each politician has his limitations, like any civil servant has any limitation, and like you and I may have limitations. No one is a perfect individual. The question is what I am looking at, and that's what ethical dilemmas is all about. Once you don't have cobwebs in your mind, once you have a clarity of thought, I think the journey is much easier. I can give many more examples, but I am stopping here. I would rather respond to your questions, specific ones if you have.
Sir, I would ask a very specific question from your book itself. You have written in the book about a very it's kind of funny the title is funny and very interesting too, the missing case of briefcase. So when we are talking about these politicians, can you please once again say us about that incident in your own?
I have written an article day before yesterday, and which has done very well on the social media, where I have narrated this instance, missing case of briefcase. I have written it in the context of what happened in Maharashtra when the police commissioner went on leave. And I'd like to juxtapose the two, because those of you who are abreast with the current happenings will be able to relate to the case of a briefcase. What had happened then was I was special secretary to Miss Mayawati. She was the chief minister. And as a part of our duty, one of us had to be a day officer. On this particular day, I was on duty at her residence early in the morning. And I was sitting in the drawing room and she was inside probably having a breakfast. So this officer walks in. He was a district magistrate of a particular district. He walks in with a small briefcase, a usual briefcase. I mean, I didn't take notice of it. I just noticed that he was carrying a briefcase. He goes inside, stays there for a short while and comes back. And then he doesn't have his briefcase in his hand. So I didn't suspect anything, but I just reminded him that probably you have left your briefcase behind. Now, he was very sheepish about it. And through his expression, I knew that he had not left it behind. He had actually left it behind. It was not an accidental leaving behind. He had actually left it behind. And then I gauged. I have no proof of that. Then I gauged there was something in it. So I pushed that officer a bit. And then he did not confess, but I could make out that's what has happened. Now, I came to believe through 38 years of my career that no politician can ask you to do a wrong thing unless you are prepared to accept that. I'm convinced about it. I've held very sensitive assignments. I've been Coal Secretary Government of India at the most sensitive time. I've been chairman of a project monitoring group that was fast-tracking projects of 1,000 crore. No one had the courage to send me a notice. There was one such incident, I remember, when from the PMO in UPA 2, I got a purchi, something written on it. And that officer rang me up. I said, sir, please don't send me those purchis. And I put that dustbin in the dustbin. Thereafter, he never bothered me. Now, what is the price that I could have paid and I have paid in some other assignment is they would transfer me. So be it. If you're prepared for the transfer, there's nothing much that they can do. But more than that, I was not troubled with transfers after a few years because they knew that I will not do it and transfer doesn't make any difference to me. Once you establish that reputation of yours, then politician will not bother you at all. They will not. They will not take you to a position which they think, as per their understanding, a sensitive one. But if there is a trouble, then they would want you to come and sort it out. Why was I called to as Coal Secretary? I didn't ask for them. I didn't go to any politician for any favor ever. But whenever there was a crisis, they called Mr. Anil Swarup and asked me to sort it out. Even if they had not called me, so be it. I never asked for a position. Fortunately, in the IAS, all positions are very important. The moment we start thinking that this is more important than the other, we are in trouble. Because then we become desirous. So the only thing that a civil servant has to remember, I think that is true of anybody else, don't expect anything from anyone else. If you get something good, treat it as a kindness of that man, but don't expect anything. If you start expecting anything, there is a price to be paid. And that's where the trouble begins. My question in the Maharashtra police cases, commissioner's cases, why did he spill the beans when he was transferred out? Why didn't he do that before that? He got to know about it a few months ago, but then either put his foot down or proceeded on leave.
Okay, so the next question is, I think one of the themes that is very prominent all across both of your books and all of the writings is, everybody says honesty is the best policy, but you always, I think, prefer to say that honesty is just not enough for public service. You have to move beyond that. Can you please explain this to our listeners? What do you mean by that?
I'm a great believer in honesty being the best policy. Honest, you have to be honest. There is no doubt about that. You have to be honest. But it cannot be honesty full stop. We as civil servants are paid to deliver things on the ground. You don't have to necessarily become dishonest to deliver things on the ground. You can continue to be honest, yet deliver it on the ground. And this will happen if you don't believe that apart from you, all the rest of the world is dishonest. One of the problems with some of the honest officers, I've seen it myself, is that they believe except them, the rest of the world is dishonest. If that be the case, then you will not succeed. You will neither be able to remain honest, nor will you be able to do anything. The attempt should be to see how that honest functioning spreads. The attempt should be to see how, apart from remaining honest, you are able to do things on the ground, and it is quite possible. I've given examples of a number of officers who were actually honest and delivered. Somehow, some of the honest officers believe that if you do something, there will be dishonesty. It is not so. There are a lot many things that you got to do where honesty or dishonesty is, first of all, not an issue. In some cases, you can do things honestly and do them. So, for example, I mean, there are many such examples in the book. But when we did the coal block auctions, and they were worth about 1,70,000 crores, the option before us was not to auction them. I would have remained honest. The challenge was to remain honest, yet auction the blocks. And you could do that. We did that. Not as finger pointed. When we cleared projects as head of the project monitoring group in 2013, we cleared projects worth 5 lakh crores. At a time when scams were breaking out, Commonwealth Games scam, coal scam, 2G scam, all scams. We cleared 5 lakh crores. Not a single finger pointed at us. So I could have easily remained honest and done nothing. But the challenge is not merely to remain honest, to deliver on the ground. That is the job of an officer. He has to perform. He can't just remain honest. Some of us have this problem. They say, if I start working, I'm transferred out. Now, this is the second aspect that I'd like to tell you, that transfer is like death. It is inevitable for a civil servant. So why worry about it? And if you believe in Hindu philosophy, you'll be reborn, no? You'll be posted somewhere else. Do the same thing there. And third, very importantly, don't confuse between compromise and accommodation. Some honest officers feel that if I do any work of any neta, I'm being dishonest. How in the hell is that true? There's so many things that you can do without violating a law. You will do it for your friend, you will not do it for a politician. Why would you do it? Don't do anything illegal which the politician says. Absolutely not. But if he's asking you for you to do something legal or something in which law is not defined but can be done, why not do it? You'll create a lot of goodwill. So the confusion or deliberately created confusion between compromise and accommodation. You have to accommodate. You have to accommodate at your home, no? Everywhere you have to accommodate. So long as it doesn't violate a specific law, rule, or regulation, what stops you from doing that? What he's asking you to do? Do it. And lay down the guidelines again, so that anyone else wants to get a similar thing done, let that also be done. There is a chapter in my book where I deal with this subject.
Thanks. The next topic, अभी आपने बताया तो मुझे एक और घटना याद आ गई. उस समय ये काफी न्यूज में था. और एक और एस्पेक्ट जो एथिक्स में हम लोग देखते हैं, पढ़ते हैं, लीडरशिप क्वालिटी. और मुझे वो बात हमेशा याद आती है. एक्चुअली द प्रॉब्लम विथ मी इज व्हेन आई स्टार्ट राइटिंग दिस केस स्टडीज आंसर, द मेजॉरिटी ऑफ इट डील्स विद गिविंग गुड एग्जांपल्स. अगर आपके पास अच्छे एग्जांपल है तो आप केस स्टडीज में अच्छा नंबर ला सकते हैं. और मेरे साथ ऐसा था कि मैं कई सारे एग्जांपल्स में सिर्फ अनिल स्वरूप did this, IAS Anil, Secretary Anil Swarup did that. One particular example is how you dealt with the CBSE paper leak during when you were the education secretary. You kind of took.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes,
can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes, sir. So
okay. See, to me, it is ethically necessary for a person to defend his teammen. There's no law. That's where ethics comes in. Ethics is the gray area between legal and illegal. If it is illegal, it is illegal. If it's legal, then ethics is not involved. Ethics is a larger set, and law is a very smaller set as a part of this. By and large, all law is ethical, but all ethical principles are not legal in the sense they have not been codified. But this is one principle which is not laid down, that you should defend your officer, your colleague officer, if you think that he's not done a wrong. And my book talks about a number of instances where I stood by my officers when I felt that they were not in the wrong. And it is one of the other statement that I make in my book is it is beneficial to be ethical. How is it beneficial? Because people think that it is some of a high pedestal, that it is ideal to be ethical. No, no. It is very practical to be ethical. Because the amount of support that you get from your team members, if they know that they are going to be supported for a right thing, is phenomenal. I mean, as Secretary Government of India, I spent 4 years. Not many secretaries get 4 years as Secretary Government of India. I had that fortune. But except the first 3 months as coal secretary, I used to leave the office at 6 o'clock. I never stayed in the office after 6 o'clock. I was perhaps the only secretary who left the office at 6 o'clock. How and why did I do that? Because I had a fantastic team. I trusted them. They trusted me. So I could delegate it to them. And they did all the job. This could happen only if they were under the belief that if something went wrong, I was there to stand by them. And this is a reputation that an officer develops over a period of time. So if you read my book, there are a number of instances where I have gone out of my way. I have taken the flak on myself and defended the officer. And the one that you're mentioning came right at the end of my career. I'm talking of March 2018 and I retired in June 2018. And my habit of standing by my officers, I stood by my officer there. The CBSE paper had leaked. I was in Dehradun attending to my father who was acutely ill. And I got this message from Chairman CBSE that this had happened and there was a lot of chaos. So I asked her to talk to the media and tell them the right story. She told me that the minister feels that she need not speak to the media. Then I tried to speak to the minister and asked him that if the chairperson doesn't speak to the media, you should speak to the media because there are unnecessary rumors going around. He took it very casually and made one statement to the media, but didn't solve the problem. Then next day, when I brought my father to Delhi and got him admitted to the hospital, thereafter I went to meet the minister, by which time the situation has become volatile, gone through the roof. So minister was very upset and he asked me that the chairman CBSE may have to be removed. So I asked him why. It's not her fault. He said the situation will be diffused. Now he was quite adamant that he wanted to remove chairman CBSE. To me, it would have been a disaster because here was an officer, one of the finest officers, who now happens to be Secretary of School Education. We would have lost that officer had we got her shifted. So I stood by her. I said, sir, I don't think she should be shifted. But then an idea came to my mind. I told the minister, sir, right now, the chairperson CBSE is the buffer between you and the media. The moment you remove her, the entire media will bounce on you directly. Now this struck and he agreed with me. Now the next question was, someone has to talk to the media. Who will talk to the media? Now the minister had been spokesman for BJP for so many years and he had been talking to the media. But on this occasion, he was reluctant. So I said, so don't worry, I'll talk to the media. He couldn't believe that I volunteered to talk to the media, which was paying for somebody's blood. I said, I'll face it. Then the press conference was held. It's another story narrated in my book. And fortunately, the press conference, after being very volatile, went off very well. People understood the points and the situation was diffused. And I'm so glad that I stood by that officer because she is undoubtedly one of the finest officers that I've come across. And she's doing extremely well as Secretary of School Education now.
Very nice, sir. I think now we should wrap up this session. We have talked a lot and it's given a very great insight to all of the aspirants. How should they approach UPSC? In the end, sir, I would just like to inform all the people who are connected with us that we have decided that we will give some books written by you, both the books, to some lucky students from our side. And for that, they can comment here and we will choose randomly out of that, no bias from our side, purely ethical. And then we will send the books. Only condition is that they have to send post that back to us and tag us that they have received the book. So
what you can do is, from the number of books that how many books do you plan to give of ethical dilemma?
Five books.
So 5 from your side.
Yes.
No, 5 ethical dilemmas from your side. I add another 5 ethical dilemmas from my side. So you send me the address. I'll ask the publisher to send you additional 5 books to you at my cost. and you can give it to those that ask the right question. Okay? Just
Yes,
send me
sir.
your address. I'll have 5 books sent to you. Okay?
Thank you,
Additional
sir.
5 books.
Very
This is beyond it, right?
it's pleasure
And
talking to
these
you,
will
sir.
be
And
and,
we
and
hope that
these will be autographed books. They will be signed by me. The
oh,
5 books that I
that's
have.
great. That's great. So, sir, please send me one book to address to me if you can. That would be great for me too.
Okay.
Anyways,
Just send me your address.
yes, sir. And in the end, we will be waiting for a third book. If you have any plan, you
Uh,
can inform us.
I'm working. I'm working on my third book. I'm already working on my third book.
We will like to invite you further to guide our students here. अगर आपको थोड़ा भी टाइम मिले कभी तो आइए और भी
नहीं,
कई
मैं आऊंगा।
एक्चुअली मैं तो सिर्फ आपके बारे में अकेला ही 1 घंटा बात कर सकता हूँ कि सर ने क्या क्या किया है और क्या सीख सकते हैं आपकी लाइफ से लेकिन फिर नेक्स्ट टाइम आते हैं और कई इश्यूज और रह गए हैं जैसे आपने जो स्कूल के लिए मॉडल्स ढूंढ ढूंढ कर एज एजुकेशन सेक्रेटरी आपने ऑल इंडिया ट्रेवल किया टूर किया और मॉडल्स ढूंढ कर निकाले एक्चुअल इंडियन सिस्टम से क्या सीख सकते हैं और भी कई सारी चीजें हैं जो हम लोग बात कर सकते थे यहाँ पे लेकिन आज उसको यहीं पे रोकते हैं और नेक्स्ट सेशन में मिलते हैं आपसे बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए
थैंक यू, थैंक यू, थैंक यू।